Excited to be joined today by a retired border chief, Chris Clem. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me on this and being here for Americans for Prosperity Foundation event over Backyard Brewing, Pints Policy. Excited for this conversation. You have decades of experience over with Border Patrol. I mean, over that span of time, has anyone done it right? It seems like there's been a constant stream of issues when it comes to this subject, and I want some glimmer of hope, maybe.
No, well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here to talk about this. You know, I will say I started in 1995, and you asked a very interesting question. Has anybody done it right? Well, it was an evolution, right? Mm-hmm. The border is dynamic. It's ever evolving. We're dealing with people. We're dealing with very well-vested, well-financed cartels. Mm. So it is always going to be dynamic and fluid. But I will tell you, every administration, and I worked for 5 of them, every administration, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, was making progress, and we had probably had the most secure border that I ever worked in the first 25 years. But I got to be honest with you, the last 2 years of my career under the current administration, we just kind of stopped making progress. We almost rolled things back. Mm-hmm. The policies, the plans that we had placed. And by the way, these plans, this was done by operators. This was my agents across the border saying, this is our requirement, this is what we need. It was my job as a chief to make sure those requirements were met, and they were being met, and we were making progress, and things just kind of, went backwards.
At this point, is it a holistic issue where now we've had a couple years of Biden in office, now all the issues with Title 42 and the disasters around everything with policy side of the House, do we have issues right now with the infrastructure, the staffing, the whole 9 yards? Is there anything that's kind of going in the right direction with it right now?
Well, I think the only thing that's going in the right direction is we're talking about it, and it's rattling some cages, right? It's hitting home. A lot of us, especially us retired chiefs, have been saying, every town is a border town, every state's a border state when you don't have border security, and that's starting to resonate in places away from the border, and so that's one good thing that's happened. But when you mentioned a holistic approach, we can have a border security package. That's what we had before. The wall, the infrastructure, the roads, the technology, the sensor packages, the cameras, the lights, and the agents, and the policy to back it up. We can do that. We did that under President Trump. But because of all that being taken away from us and slow rolled at best, it's created this pull factor. It's created a demographic that we had not seen before. In Yuma, where I was chief, we had over 116 different countries. Wow. And so, it takes on a whole different meaning when you have people coming in, turning themselves in to Border Patrol, crossing illegally in where infrastructure should have been completed. Look, when I first got in, the problem was single adult Mexican nationals. Yeah. And over time, it kind of grew to Central Americans. And then we had the phenomenon shift back in 2012 through 14, where just people started coming in, and now it just continues. And while you see the pictures and the images, those are real.
Yeah, definitely. To me, it seems like we have a systemic issue way outside it. Like, the border security is obviously tremendously important, but it's not going to necessarily curb the huge amount of people that are coming to the border, like the massive amount of Haitian asylum seekers, especially that we've seen recently. People from Asia and such are coming through the southern border and such. I mean, in your conversations with people, is there any direction you think that would be productive to kind of stem the ultimate cause of all these people coming through that border?
Yeah. So the first and foremost, you have to secure what we've started between the ports of entry. That is something when I talk about tall fences, wide gates. That is putting a lock on our front door of our country, so we can know who is coming in through our front door, which would be the ports of entry, the lawful way. So we need to make sure that we're coming in the right way. And then really the best way to get to solutions to solve the immigration side of this is get down to the border and talk to the communities. And actually, the border is important, but talk to the communities across the country. Yeah. Talk to your business leaders. Talk to your hospital superintendents, your schools. Talk to people that are looking for people to employ. What do we need to make America stronger and to continue to grow? That is what immigration is for, is to build us and make us stronger. And you know what? The last thing is we really need a strong backbone in Washington in a foreign policy to hold the source and sending countries accountable. Not letting these people just come through and pass through to come and invade our southern border.
Thanks so much for joining me. This is great.
You got it.
First of all, welcome back to the show. Americans for Prosperity Foundation Immigration Policy Fellow Jordan Fischetti. You joined us previously after your border trip that AFP had. And today you're going to be speaking to Chris Clem. And what are some things you're hoping to hear from him about?
So with Chris Clem today, he'll talk a bit about his experience at the border, how things got a lot worse in his last couple of years there, and really what needs to be done in terms of securing the border. And we talk about a lot of the same things: personnel, infrastructure, technology. We need more people, we need better roads, we need walls in strategic locations, we need up-to-date technology. But we also need, in addition to those tall fences, metaphorical tall fences, but also real tall fences in places, wide gates. We need to streamline and expand legal channels. And that is what I expect to hear from him, and I will also be talking about that as well.
And I spoke to him about the systemic issue of, obviously, that we have a immigration problem and overall global. We have people from Haiti coming to the border, we have people from Asia that are coming through the southern border. From a policy perspective, what are some things that you're looking at to kind of curb this issue?
So, to just add to what you were saying, we've got a huge increase in people coming from China. Recently, we've gotten people coming from as far away as Mauritania, which I guarantee you the majority of people don't even know where that is.
I don't know where that is.
It's south of Morocco.
Oh, okay.
Actually, south of Western Sahara, which is south of Morocco, yeah. I know I'm in North Africa. But, you have people coming from all different countries, and that's so much different than what it used to be. Up until about 2010, there's people coming from Mexico. Mm-hmm. So generally speaking, our laws worked because most people that were coming to work. Mm-hmm. And if you're coming to work, you don't have an asylum claim. So you get a credible fear interview, and you're gone if you don't have a credible fear. Got a little bit more complicated in the mid-2000s or mid-2010s when you started getting an influx of people from Central America, largely El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. These were family units, a lot of which were applying for asylum, a lot of which actually ended up in my law office back when I was a lawyer. And now we just have that, but even more expanded and just from all these different countries. And it's very, very complicated. I'm not going to tell you that there's an easy solution because there isn't. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's the combination of the personnel, infrastructure, technology for Border Patrol and the legal channels. That includes better refugee processing. Currently, 1 in every 5,000 displaced people ends up as a refugee in the U.S. Why? Because it's very difficult. First, you need to flee your country to one of only 30 safe countries. And even if you can make it there, the UN has to refer you, which is less than 1% of the time. And even if you get through all that, there's a 15,000 cap for Western Hemisphere. And we haven't even reached that in the last several years. So we have a system that is, for several reasons, gutted, that people could use, but instead now have to come to our border seeking asylum, which overwhelms Border Patrol and also overwhelms the immigration courts, which means longer waits for hearings, which means more of an incentive to come here, and in turn, more people flooding the border, overwhelming Border Patrol. And what happens when people flood the border is Border Patrol is distracted from people who are actually threats to our national security, rule of law. Refugee system needs to be improved, but our employment visa system also needs to be improved. And I'm not just talking about immigrant visas. I'm also talking non-immigrant visas. Very few people on non-immigrant employment visas overstay. It's 1 or 2%. These are people, they want to come here and work. We saw when we went down to Yuma, people would go to work during the day and go back to Mexico at night. And people from other parts of the world, they'll come here for a couple months, come back home. What does that do? Well, it lessens the strain at the border, but it also brings wealth and capital back home and improves some of those countries.
It's a hard sell, though, politically, I'd imagine. The big thing that I feel bad, ultimately, for Democratic voters out there because they feel terrible if these people come to the border. They're in desperate situations. Of course, we should definitely feel for that, but we don't fix it by just saying, they're all asylum seekers, and this is how we're going to solve this. No, we have an economic migrant problem that isn't properly set up.
That's exactly right. We have economic migrants, but the problem is, as you know, there are some factions on the left who don't want the competition. They won't ever say that, but they don't want the competition coming in from immigrant labor. And we've seen this for decades. There was a program in the 50s, I think I talked about a little bit last time I was on your show, called the Bracero program. When that program was instituted, it allowed U.S. farmers to directly hire Mexican laborers. Apprehensions dropped by 500,000 in 2 years.
Back then. I'm talking populations back then.
I know. And admissions only went up by 200,000. Why? Because people saw a legal channel that they were willing to wait for. What happened to it? The government kept stripping away from it, making it more and more difficult for people to access the program, until finally doing away with it in 1964. Why? Largely because of labor unions.
It just rank politics so much. It causes so many issues that we see this right now with our crazy presidential election that we're in the middle of, or this event's taking place a day after the second GOP debate, which was just a total cluster. And I didn't even watch it. I just watched the clips and go, I just need to know a little bit what happened so I can move on with my life. It's like a lot of this comes down to our systemic, in addition to economic issues, but also our political issues we have in this country in order to really have the right people at the table.
Exactly. And we're just not seeing that.
Yeah.
We're not incentivizing people to actually come up with solutions. There are a lot of good legislators out there. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, people just want to virtue signal and grandstand. Yeah. I was watching a hearing, I'm not going to say which committee because I really don't want to name names. One of the Congress people interrupted somebody who was talking about solutions to demand that this person say it was a border crisis. Like, you're literally interrupting somebody from telling you how to improve this crisis just so you can hear him say it's a crisis, and people back home can be like, oh, you're tough on immigration.
Yeah. I have to bring up the craziness we're seeing right now with people being bused in New York and Chicago and all these places. I mean, Mayor Eric Adams was shouting he's going to have like a $15 billion deficit or something like that, and he's going to be taking away resources. You hope this, unfortunately, is a bitter pill that hopefully starts waking people up in these states and cities that maybe we need to have these changes.
I think it's starting to. I mean, you're definitely seeing it in New York City. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have right to shelter laws there, right? So, I mean, whatever the virtues of that are, they probably were not expecting such an influx in such a short period of time. But
Economics 101 there.
I know, yeah, but like what's happening, I hear, is that with immigrants and also with homeless people, they are literally being shipped to like islands on the perimeter of the city to live in tents. Like, they just don't know what to do with people. And then it presents the problem of, you got all these people, right, that you have to pay for their shelter, and they also have services for these people, but the government can refund a little bit of it, but where the government has like a couple $100 million, I think it's the FEMA recovery funds. Mm-hmm. Mayor Adams said he spent something like $5 billion, which it was. I don't remember exactly what the number was.
Either way, all these numbers are so high it doesn't even matter.
An exaggeration, but like whatever it was more than whatever whatever portion of that $400 million would have gone to him. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, well, like, let's get these people work permits sooner. And on one hand, sure, that makes sense. We want people to be self-dependent as quickly as possible. But unfortunately, on the other hand, it's yet another incentive to come here illegally. Now you have to apply for asylum and wait 6 months to get your work permit. So that's usually about a year for people. It takes them several months usually to apply in the first place. So that's a little bit of a deterrent. If people just come here and they can apply right away, there's no deterrent. At that point, the deterrent is the journey, which I've heard a lot about this journey, both from my own clients and from reading about it. I would never take that journey. Anyone who says they're doing it the easy way, I invite them to do that journey. But the fact is, people are doing it. Because people want to flee their countries so badly that they're willing to endure deathly jungles, the Darien Strip between Colombia and Panama, gang members, cartel members, pay tens of thousands of dollars, potentially have to leave a family member behind in indentured servitude to pay off the debt. People are willing to do this, $10,000 a day. So
it's a dire situation, but it seems like there's some ways we can fix it, which I'm very happy to hear. I'm hoping we get past this election cycle, we see where the cards lie and what happens after that. But if people want to get more informed on this, if they want to learn more about AFP Foundation, what should they do?
Go to afpfoundation.org. We got a lot of resources there, including some of our op-eds, also our video from when we went down to the border. Not the virtual reality video, which we have over here, but actually a 10-minute video going over the different places we went to, interviewing people for both their before and after reactions to the trip. And every media hit that we do is going to be put on there. So there will be increasingly more resources. And the hope really is that increasingly more people learn about this and that they speak to, I'm going to say increasingly more one more time, but increasingly more people, so that eventually we get enough people that are like, oh, there are some solutions out there, and AFP is a credible voice for solutions. Let's actually encourage Congress to do the right thing. Not to hold our nation hostage over a budget, right? I mean, the whole implications...
We're about to go through that again.
Not to go through that, but the whole implications of the shutdown is a whole nother issue. To actually come together and figure out what are some things that we can do and be willing to compromise. And it's just, I have not seen compromise in a decade. And not just on immigration.
Yeah, across the board.
Across the board.
All right. Hopefully, people will start checking that out, start learning more, pushing their lawmakers to do what they're supposed to do. And what I'll definitely do is put in the episode description links to AFP Foundation's website where you can check out all these resources. Also put in our previous conversation from when you were at the border in the description, so check that out. This event, Pints and Policy, will be recorded. Check out the New England Take feed. I'll be sure to link it over there and put in the episode description when that video comes out. NewEnglandTake.com, like and subscribe if you are checking that out on YouTube. Check out the audio version on your favorite podcast platforms. We'll talk to you soon.
I learned a lot because I haven't been connected to the immigration for a long time. I mean, I have been here for 30 years from Cuba, and it is a completely different situation that I have than many other people that don't have, like, for example, a law of Cuban adjustment or something like that allow them to maybe come here and ask for asylum. There is a lot of suffering in the world, and a lot of people that actually have been exploited because of that suffering. So it really opened my eyes a little bit more to know what is really happening for those people that are coming, and for the people that are staying here, and the people that are trying to find a better way of life, but they definitely are not finding that, a lot of them, because they're being exploited by people who are making a lot of money out of the suffering of another human being. So definitely I learned a lot today. Thank you so much.